So what happens if/when Florida State beats both Miami and Florida on the field again this year and are crowned state champs for the third year in a row? JD Pickell of On3 is back with another FSU take, and another one that I thought would be interesting to talk about with you guys. There's quite a few things on here that I want to get into and talk about. Well, let's go ahead and roll the clip first.
If you win the state for the third year in a row, and the way you would do that with a brand new roster, bringing back pretty much nobody from last year's squad, 83rd returning production are the Noles. Think about the way that would look to recruits in the state of Florida. It's more of a conversation around Mike Norvell, I think. You're saying, okay, Mike Norvell, he had success the last 2 years, but he has success with a new quarterback, new skill players, bunch of new pieces on the defensive line. If he has success with a new roster, he is the common denominator. And if he goes out and beats Miami and beats Florida for the third year in a row and goes 6-0 in the state in the last 3 years, Florida State's that big dog. And if you're the big dog in the state of Florida and you are the school of choice for top recruits in the state of Florida, tell you what, you're going to hoist some hardware.
Now, I think he makes a lot of good points here and comes at it from a good POV. There's a lot to unpack here, but I think for one, you could make the argument that Florida State is already the top dog in the state of Florida. Like you said, you beat Florida and Miami 2 years in a row. You've actually beat Miami 3 years in a row, thanks to a 4th and 14 conversion from Jay Trav and Andrew Parchment. But also in those few years, UF stock has plummeted. They missed a bowl game last year, have a tremendously tough schedule coming up in 2024. I think by week 6, Billy Napier will have one of the hottest seats in the country. Also in those few years, we've seen some of the most embarrassing on-field blunders come out of Miami as well. Florida State beating Miami 45-3 in 2022. Miami losing to Middle Tennessee State that same season. Mario refusing to take a knee in an already won game against Georgia Tech, and then losing to Rutgers in their bowl game. Also in those few years, Florida State has had an undefeated season, won the conference even with a third-string quarterback. There's levels here, and I don't care how much anyone tries to spin Mario as recruiting or come up with excuses for Billy Napier. Florida State is just levels above those other programs right now. Now, I do get the sentiment that 2 to 3 years, you'd still like to tack on one more to the resume just to really start to distance yourself from the pack, so to speak. Now, if you do that, then yeah, I think the dynamic in the state, in the conference, and in the entire country becomes pretty different. Miami and Florida are both heading into year 3 with their coaches. Now, Florida State's year 3 under Mike Norvell yielded a 10-win season, state champs, and a bowl win over Oklahoma, with less talent on paper. So there's no reason on paper that they shouldn't be able to have a similar jump. Now, I don't think they will. I don't think Billy Napier or Mario Cristobal are half the coach that Mike Norvell is. I think recruiting clouds people's judgments just a little too much. But for both programs, this feels kind of like a put up or shut up year, the same way Florida State was in 2022. Especially Miami, who has went all in on the transfer portal, getting guys like Cam Ward just to try to make something out of this season. So if they can't make it happen this year, will it ever happen? Again, a very similar spot to what Florida State had going into 2022. And like JD said, Florida State lost a ton of guys to the draft last April. Now they rank 83rd in returning production. That's a whole lot of new faces and things to figure out. If Florida State is able to win the state for the third time, making it 3 in a row versus UF and 4 in a row versus Miami, I think he's right. I think it speaks absolute volumes about Mike Norvell. Of course, us Florida State fans won't be too surprised. We know what Mike is. We know he's the guy. We know he's the real deal. But that was in an absolute shockwave throughout the sport. I think it adds to the aspect of both other coaches getting fired. Again, because I think it speaks to larger looming issues there, both in Gainesville and Coral Gables. So I think some of the media will start to fall back out of love in Miami. I think it greatly impacts recruiting. Again, with Mike Norvell rolling out such a new team here, especially with guys like DJU who have a little something to prove still, if Florida State goes out and has a great season, double-digit wins, beating both in-state rivals, it has to mean that we've seen DJU take a pretty significant stride for starters, but the rest of the team as well, which only further cements Mike's reputation as a great offensive mind and his whole staff's reputation for developing players and getting the absolute most out of each guy. So I think for recruits, if you're looking at that trajectory, if you're looking at a program that is about as stable as they could possibly get right now, especially if you're a recruit in the state of Florida who's likely considering all 3 schools, I think another year of dominating the state helps set Florida State apart to a lot of those kids, and I think it makes their decision pretty easy. Especially because, again, I don't think Florida has a very good season in 2024. I think that program shouts dysfunction if you're a recruit. Now, I think Miami will have a better record than Florida, but I don't know that it'll be enough to have a 9 or 10 win kind of season. And even if Mario isn't quite on the hot seat come November, if they've underperformed, it means another season has went by of Mario having lots of talent on paper, but never getting it realized on the field. And for a kid making a career decision, I'm not sure how much juice Miami or Florida have at that point. Now, I think zooming out a little bit, getting more into the macro, 2024 will probably be Florida State's final year in the ACC. So if you finish out beating Miami, winning the state, should be competing for and hopefully winning your conference, especially on your way out, that gives you a whole lot of buzz and bargaining power, whether it be the Big Ten or the SEC. If you head out on a high note, it goes a long way with getting you settled somewhere else and maybe even squeeze a little more revenue out of the deal. So yeah, while I think Florida State is already the top dog in the state of Florida, proving it again for the third year straight will be a huge deal. If you can create some distance between you and the little brother programs, if you can become the top destination in the state for high-level recruits, if you can use your recent success as a way to thrust yourself into a Power 2 conference, like JD says, you're going to hoist some hardware. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So there's lots of hype around Tallahassee right now, and I'm super excited for this 2024 season coming up. This will be the last month without Florida State football, guys. So close, and yet so far it feels like, but it'll be here before you know it. We'll get to see these narratives play out and get to see the Noles dominate on the field yet again. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We always appreciate JD's takes on Florida State. If you enjoyed the video, definitely hit that subscribe button and drop a like. Like I said, FSU football returns next month, and we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by kickoff in Ireland, so definitely consider subscribing, and also while you're at it, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Is Florida State the top dog in the state of Florida? Do you think they'll beat both in-state rivals again in 2024? Let me know down below, and let's talk Noles. We'll catch you guys on the next one.